Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. So we discussed the fundamental values, the foundations, the six foundations, and now we move on to the six principles after the seven foundations. So the first principle that this framework, this ethical code enlists is the trustworthiness, and it defines three important attributes in this particular principle. It says that there has to be a high degree of integrity and truthfulness and honesty. So the difference between the honesty, truthfulness, and integrity is that integrity is a broader umbrella, whereas honesty and truthfulness is relatively have shorter meaning. So honesty is transaction based, trustworthiness is truthfulness is also a transaction based or communication based, but integrity is actually a broader concept which goes beyond the transaction. So a person can be honest, but the integrity still could not be there in his conduct because he does what he does not think appropriate, or his his principles do not match his conduct. So that's the lack of integrity. But he can be honest that whatever he's mentioning in a certain context is true. So that's truth. So these both qualities needs to be there in order to be trustworthy, and also the standard says that respect the confidentiality, and in the rules we shall see that the standard also the code also operationalizes these constructs. So then the legitimacy, the second important principle, it says that the Sharia legitimacy of everything relating to professional duties. So whatever comes in the actions, in the behavior, in the decisions, so the first point of reference has to be the whether it's allowed by Sharia or not. So integrity, honesty, and confidentiality technically comes in after if something is actually originally allowed by the Sharia. The third principle is objectivity, and it lists again the four items. Is that it has to be a fair and impartial or unbiased whenever it comes to disclosing some information, right? So we usually interpret this fairness with the example of a glass half filled with water. So I usually give this example that for the purpose of financial reporting and accounting, if somebody asks that if a glass is half filled with water and half empty, then usually we say that some people would say it is half empty, some people would say it's half filled. So that's the change of approach. But for the accounting profession or the financial reporting, if we fit in this example, then in order to be fair and unbiased, it has to be mentioned that this glass is half filled and half empty, so that we do not take any side, right? The second thing it lists is the free from conflicts of interest and free from conflict of interest. It means that whatever you are doing, whatever decisions you are making, you have to make sure that there is no conflict of interest, and you have to refrain from bringing any conflict of interest there. So conflict of interest can be in the situations where my own personal benefit actually has to compete with the benefit of the organization for which I am working for, right? So there can be plenty of situations which we can think of. They're independent in fact and appearance. Now this is also very important that it should be independent. It should not be the decision taken by an Islamic finance accountant or auditor should not be an outcome of any pressure or anything other than the professional judgment based on these principles. So, and it also has to be independent in appearance. So it's not just it is independent in fact, it should also appear independent. So if something is in true essence independent but it does not appear independent, it will still create some sort of social chaos because the people will read it as not independent although the person is independent. So it has to be appear as such. And finally, do not subordinate professional judgment to suggestion of others, right? So suggestion of experts insofar as they are needed for something to report on, it's okay, but so long as they are putting an impairment to the objectivity, they are not to be taken into consideration. The fourth principle is the professional competence and due diligence. So the accountant needs to be well equipped, right? So they need to upskill themselves. They need to um, uh, the last thing over here. They need to be professionally competent, qualified, and current in terms of what the current standards are. So very good. Then the second important thing is that they perform their tasks diligently and properly. So having a qualification and competence is one thing, and applying that qualification or competence is another thing, right? So maybe because of my own lethargy, I am not doing the work I am supposed to do, although I have the skill, I have the competence. So this is something to be done away with. The third thing it mentioned is that saving no effort in discharging responsibilities to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, responsibilities to society, responsibilities to the profession, to the superiors, to the client, and the selves. So whatever is required from my professional obligation, I have to do it 100%. I should not save my effort in any way. The fifth one is a faith-driven conduct, behavior and conduct consistent with faith values, right? So this is something again very much overlapping with the legitimacy thing. So I can still be honest without guided by the faith. I can be trustworthy without guided by the faith, but the Islamic finance accountants and auditors need to be guided by the faith, and they have to be faith-driven conduct. All their decisions are actually based on their ultimate iman and faith that there is a one creator, and there is a perfect code of standard operating procedure for the humans, which has been disclosed to us by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then all the things are to be actually viewed, evaluated from that particular lens. And finally, the professional conduct and technical standards. So it says that the professional accountants, Islamic finance accountants, have to observe the rules of professional conduct, which is section 3 coming henceforth, and comply with the accounting and auditing standards issued by AAOIFI or other applicable standards. So although they are overlapping, but yet they establish the 6 fundamental principles. And now in the rules, when we talk of the rules, so these rules are also framed in the hierarchy of those 6 standards. So for every 6 principles. So for example, for the principle of trustworthiness, it mentions 4 rules. Number 1, present favorable and unfavorable information, which is the professional judgments, which is the demand of honesty and truthfulness, just like the example of glass half filled and half empty, I gave it to you. So refrain from disclosing confidential information acquired, so that's to maintain the confidentiality, and also refrain from using the confidential information for some personal gain. So again, these are the rules or the provisions which are usually universal across all the code of ethics. And refrain from actively or passively engaging in any behavior that would jeopardize institutions' religious and ethical objectives, or especially this is relevant for the internal accountants. So not only that I have to be careful in using the confidential information, but also I have to be careful in all my conducts, so that it doesn't happen that any conflict of interest let me do something for my own benefit, damaging the benefit of the institution I am working for. So rules based on religious legitimacy, the second principle. Again, 4 rules have been listed over here. Discharge responsibilities towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way, giving precedence to this responsibility or all others, right? So whenever there is a competition between the responsibility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and responsibility to the client or to the employer, then the responsibility towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the precedence. The second principle, the second rule says, be aware of Sharia's rules relating to the jurisprudence of financial transactions. Receive formal adequate training in jurisprudence of financial dealings. So the accountants, the auditors, they have to be financially literate, not only in the financial concepts, the conventional ones, but also in the Islamic finance. So this is something which is the requirement of having the religious legitimacy in whatever they are doing, whatever decisions they are making. Rule number 3, verify the religious legitimacy of events being accounted for or audited as determined by the Sharia Supervisory Board of the IFIs. So the second one was that one should be aware of the rules and the standards by themselves, And the third one actually says that if a situation comes when there is some sort of confusion or uncertainty, then have to seek the opinion of the experts, especially the Sharia Supervisory Board, Sharia experts within the institutions, Islamic financial institutions. And finally, again, the continuation of the same is that if there is a ruling by the Sharia scholars, the Sharia Supervisory Board, then the accountant has to conform with it, and not conforming it is illegitimate from the Sharia perspective, even if it agrees with other laws or professional traditions, or even if it agrees with his own ideology. For example, there are some matters that have some subjective opinions, right? So some scholars say it is allowed, some scholars say it is not allowed. So the broader interpretation of this rule would say that if the Sharia board, who are actually bestowed upon the responsibility of doing the Sharia opinion, giving the Sharia opinion, if they say something is not allowed, then the accounting based on the awareness of his own knowledge and awareness, he cannot just go against it, saying that it is allowed in my own opinion. So I stop this video over here, and in the next video we shall see the other four set of rules in the other four principles, together with the closure of this particular topic. Thank you.